You were told progress makes humans stronger. But when archaeologists line up ancient bones, the timeline tells a different story. For most of human history, your ancestors were not weaker versions of you. They were often taller, harder to break, and less wrecked by the work they did. Then they made one decision that changed bodies, diets, and eventually your entire week. Not fire. Not tools. Farming. And the trap that came with it. Let's start with the part nobody puts on a motivational poster: skeletons. When researchers compare hunter-gatherer remains with early farming populations from the same regions, a pattern shows up again and again. Hunter-gatherer skeletons are often taller. Their teeth often show less decay before agriculture spread. Farmer skeletons, by contrast, show more signs of nutritional stress, more cavities, more joint damage from repetitive work. This isn't one unlucky village. From the Middle East to Europe, the Americas, and parts of Asia, the agricultural transition tracks with a decline in skeletal health indicators. Bioarchaeologists call it the health cost of the Neolithic. And it forces a brutal question. If farming was pure progress, why do the bones look worse after it arrives? To understand the contrast, picture a human body built for a different rhythm. Hunter-gatherers moved a lot, but not like a factory shift. Studies of groups that lived closer to that lifestyle, like Richard Lee's work with the Jew/Hoansi in the 1960s, and later research among the Hadza, suggest adults often spent roughly 15 to 20 hours a week on direct food work. You probably beat that before Wednesday. The rest was maintenance, travel, childcare, and something modern calendars don't have a box for: time that wasn't counted as work. Not because they were lazy. Because survival required flexibility, not maximum output every daylight hour. Their bodies were shaped by varied movement, diverse wild foods, and long spans of low-intensity activity. Early farmers got a different workout: the same motion, the same crop, the same back, season after season. And a different menu. Heavier in starchy grains, lighter in dietary variety. Your mouth still pays interest on that menu change. Here's where the health story collides with something archaeologists find embarrassing: for the life was non-stop misery version of prehistory. Art that took time. Jewelry that took travel and patience. Music that took precision. None of this proves ancient life was easy. Danger was real. But it does suggest bodies that were often well-fed enough, and calendars open enough, for non-survival craft. Healthy enough to survive. Free enough to create. That combination is harder to find in the first farming villages scraping through a bad harvest. About 10,000 years ago, in the Fertile Crescent and independently elsewhere, humans began planting seeds and keeping animals on repeat. Smart, right? More calories could support more people. And that's the trap. More people meant more food had to be produced. More production meant more labor. Within generations, populations were too large to go back to wide-range foraging even if anyone wanted to. The skeletons we saw earlier? This is when many of them start shrinking and breaking down. Larger settlements brought specialists, storage, hierarchy, and eventually the idea that someone else's schedule owns your day. Important nuance. Growing food wasn't the error. The error was getting locked into a system that traded skeletal health and time flexibility for density, surplus, and control. You didn't inherit their freedom. You inherited their trap. Upgraded with fluorescent lighting. Now map that onto you. Varied movement replaced by chairs. Diverse diets replaced by whatever is fastest. Sleep compressed into one exhausted block. We didn't reverse the trade. We industrialized it. Different century. Same repetitive strain logic. Your ancestors weren't healthier because they had better apps. They were healthier because their economy of living matched the body Homo sapiens spent hundreds of thousands of years building. So yes. For most of human history, people whose bones we still dig up were often stronger specimens than the first farmers who followed. One strategic shift. Not a bad Tuesday. A trapdoor. They didn't have your medicine, your sanitation, or your safety from predators. Fair. But they had bodies that matched their lives. And time that wasn't rented out by default. You can't undo 10,000 years with a weekend detox. But you can stop pretending the trade was free. Channel 4. History explains simply.